questions about the meetings from the minutes from the last meeting? Very well. I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Very well. It has been moved and seconded. Now, in the rules governing this meeting, we ask for discussion. If anyone had something to say about the minutes.
Order, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Vice Chairman.
You need a second before you begin discussion.
Yes, we did get that already.
Did we have a second?
Yes.
I didn't
Who was
hear
the
it.
second?
I believe I seconded it.
Okay.
Can I do that?
You can do anything.
Very well. I knew part of it. So it has been moved and seconded. Now we have any discussion about the minutes. If there is no discussion,
I have a sort of a point of discussion.
Indeed.
If people were absent or not present or not yet elected, then they can't vote on the minutes.
right, absolutely. Makes sense.
That's the only situation under which one can abstain.
Thank you very much. That's a
You're
great point, Catherine. And in that moment, I guess I will look to my left and say all of those in favor of accepting the minutes, raise your hand. All right, all opposed? Very well. It has carried. Now, in the meeting, we speak at this point in the agenda about warrants. Warrants are, it's basically a fancy municipal way of saying bills we have paid. And warrants are numbered throughout the fiscal year. And each of us as select board members take turns reviewing the warrant, looking at any large budget items that may seem to stand out to folks taking a look. And in this case, we are going to review and make sure everyone has understood warrants 55 and 56. Now, who was that observer? That was Mr. Eno.
I think it's going to be me by default.
Yep. Oh, very well, Ralph. If you want to talk about those
I think it's
warrants.
Actually, warrant 54
Okay.
in the amount of $22,378.36, which is payroll. And warrant number 55, which is $405,000, go, $204.28 for a total amount in aggregate of $427,582.64. To hit a couple of the highlights, it's directional. I can do better. I should know that. The main reason why we are seeing such a significant number at this point in our budget history is that we had to reissue a check to mainly paving for $332,132.47, which I believe we did approve at the last select board meeting,
We did.
but the check went missing. So there's been a stop payment order issued, and we have the new check that has been cut. Other items of interest. We have a $3,000 payment to Barry, Talbot, and Royer for our audit. We have a bill of $4,098.96, which basically was for converting our transfer station payment program to a digital format, and that is for Brandon Sadler. Sandler.
Please, if I may interrupt, where are the warrants? Where are you finding this? Do you have a paper copy?
I have a paper copy. They are in a folder. I don't know that they are in the minutes at this point.
They are not.
I
Not at
don't,
this point, no.
Okay.
Are they online, Eric?
No, because these are the ones that get wrapped up this afternoon.
Okay.
So this is the challenge we have with having the warrants on the same night as the meetings.
Gotcha.
In the past, we've been off cycle and it's worked fairly well, but
Okay.
we do have those available. I can go downstairs and grab it if anybody wants to take a look at it.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I
I'll
think it would
grab
be a
that.
good idea,
right.
especially for the new, because I'm going like,
trust
I'm looking
me.
at all the normal spots and
I
I'm
trust
thinking.
you implicitly, but I don't feel I'm doing
Yes.
my due diligence.
So normally, so what we will do later when we're splitting up the time, we'll talk about the quarters in which we will come in. What has, there are usually two types of warrants, and tell me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but there's warrant that covers like payroll items. And then sometimes there is a warrant that will cover what are known as state fees. So it's the check that we send to the state after we have collected the fees. And those all require our signatures. So you'll hear sometimes the person who is reviewing it will usually be the first to sign. Then we get additional signatures to make sure that everything's up and up.
Do we have copies in there?
No, those are just the originals, I think.
I'll have you send that down and they can share it
Yes.
because you and I are more
Yeah,
familiar.
you guys share this. It has all the listings, and that way you can take a look at the various expenses.
And the other warrant basically is vendor fees. So shall I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please do. Please do.
All right, so we have talked about the audit fee. We have talked about the transfer station cost for digitizing us. We have a $4,937.50 bill from Ellis Construction, which is for sweeping. LM Enterprises, $1,225, which is, I believe, for,
It says pagers and radios, 7 of them.
And that's a reimbursement.
no, that, we have Lucas Striping, 6,925.12. We have 8,123.26 for employee health. Again, we have mainly paving, which is a fresh cut check, $22,929.35, and that is for the shoulder gravel that is put in place after the roads are paved. We have begun some park and rec work with ball field design, and we have cut a check for $1,765 to the Maine Land Development Company to that end. And we have done some tree work, Taylor Stevenson to $2,425, and I believe that is that cemetery work?
That was actually for the intersection where we
Okay.
just did the paved aprons.
Okay, so we opened up rights of way and sightlines.
Exactly, it's a big sightline issue.
So in aggregate, between payroll and the vendor warrants, the total is $427,000, $582,64, and I would move payment of same.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to pass warrant 54. Is there any discussion on those items? Very well, all in favor? And this you can vote on. Very good.
And we have one other warrant that crept up on us shortly after Chris and Bruce were out of office, which is 54A, if I believe. And that is state fees in the amount of $3,892.75, which I believe is also in that packet.
That's included in that number that you had just.
Is it in aggregate?
It is, yes.
Okay, then we're done.
Yep. Very well then. Thank you very
If
much.
I could make one clarifying point.
Yes, please do.
It's always worrisome when somebody says a check went missing.
Yeah. Oh, yes, please do. Go for it. Yeah.
Somebody didn't
Please,
get
yeah.
The vendor moved, and we had not had an updated address. So it went to the former property, and then got stuck in the mail system going forward and backward.
Gotcha.
And so it will show back up again. It was just a very large dollar value. We wanted to make sure he could pay his vendors for the asphalt and pay his crew. So
Yeah.
we could have waited, but we thought it was the best approach to keep him as well paid as possible.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
When you're talking about that much money, it's nice to know The check's in the mail. We move now to the next part of the agenda, which is labeled communications. And the first item that always appears here is select board communications. It's an opportunity for members of the select board to talk about projects, things going on in the community, or items that they simply want to discuss. Are there any select board members who would like to have an opportunity to say something?
Well, of course.
Please.
So there are a couple of things. Eric, I talked with you about all of these earlier today. We have at least one person here from the cemetery committee with a concern. I'm not sure where we'd like to put that in tonight, but I'd like it somewhere. So it can either go under public communication or when we do boards and committees. And a short report out from broadband when we do boards and committees, or I'll just do it now. So the article that we put in the town warrant was widely approved, that the residents who voted would like us to proceed with finding something better for broadband. That's about as specific as it got. So we're working on that. There was a meeting 2 weeks ago with Senator Golden and some of Senator Golden's, he's not a
Administrative
senator,
staff.
Representative Golden,
Representative, yeah.
from his staff in his office. And we're having a meeting with a person from GWI who's going to give us some more direction. That's with the WKCBLA, the larger group of 5 towns that are working together. And then I'd just like to say that the paving looks excellent. The shoulders look good. The striping is done. It's such a difference when you drive to Winthrop. When you get to Winthrop, and it's always nice to come back to Readfield. So job well done.
Yahoo. Well, thank you very much, Catherine. Anyone else? All right. I just want to say and let everyone know that, again, Heritage Days is happening. Heritage Days is this year, Friday, the 13th. But don't let that scare you. The Saturday, the 14th, and Sunday, the 15th, there are activities going on each of those 3 days. We have anything from book signings, book sales, pulling stones, music at the beach. There's all kinds of things happening. We'll have more information. Look for an article in the Messenger. That'll give you a good idea. We have a Facebook page, Readfield Heritage Days online on Facebook. And also you can like the Readfield Facebook page as well. We'll also share information there. That sounds good. Anyone else? Very well. It's now time in the agenda for town staff reports. This is when we listen to Eric tell us what's happening.
Well, and our other staff, and we have some of our beach staff here today. And I wanted
Yes.
to ask Noah, who is our lead attendant and aspiring beach superintendent, to speak a little bit about the activities at the beach, because there's a lot going on, and I thought it'd be great
Yeah, absolutely.
to have him speak.
Please go ahead, go right up to the podium, say your name so we can all hear, and we'll listen.
Let me just pull up my notes on my phone.
Yes, sir.
While Noah's doing that, I want to make another announcement about the beach. Readfield swim lessons, first time in decades we are doing this. We have several morning sessions available with somewhat limited capacity, but we should be able to handle about 60 kids of varying age levels. And if we have an overwhelming demand, we may be able to add more. But Monday through Thursday, July 12th to August 12th, so it's a 5-week session. 8 to about 10:30 in the morning, depending on where the sessions fall. And a point of clarification, it's $45 for everything. So basically about a half hour to 45-minute session, 4 days a week, 5 weeks, so 20 sessions for $45. And we're very, very excited to be offering that this year.
Fantastic.
Is that just for Readfield residents?
It is not.
It is not.
It is not.
So if you are summer people here visiting, or say someone from Winthrop,
If you have a kid that wants to learn how to swim, we'll be happy to
Have them be ready.
happy to have you.
Who's giving those lessons? If you don't mind.
It's being run by the YMCA, the Kennebec
Nice.
Valley YMCA. We do have, Noah is now a certified lifeguard, so he will be our lifeguard on duty during the swim lessons. And that'll save us some money because we don't have to hire a Y lifeguard to attend. So we're trying to do this with a good value. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a great program.
Noah, you can take it away.
So I would first like to just express my gratitude for letting me speak in front of this important select board meeting. I feel honored and I cannot express my gratitude enough. I would like to also thank Eric for pointing out those swim lessons. That's a big event that we're pretty excited for coming up in the beach. We get a lot of community feedback. I've gotten a lot of community feedback already from mothers and fathers and grandparents that talk about how their kids are so excited to just learn how to swim for the first time. And I'm glad that we're able to provide those experiences at the Readfield beach. Something that I've been doing the past 3 weeks is just trying to get the beach back to its not former glory, but the best look it can be during the peak season, especially since it seems day after day, we get more and more customers is the right word? Visitors to the beach that seem to really enjoy the calm atmosphere that we provide. We have recently put up a goose fence that has really dramatically decreased the amount of droppings that we have seen on the beach. And I really know that that is a big priority for a lot of the people that come. I get comments about how glad people are to see less of that around. I have been doing a weekly testing for the water, which was halted during 2020, and I'm glad to see that resumed, especially since I know that's a big point of concern for a lot of parents of young children. So one thing that I would like to discuss is I would like to see an increase of sales of day passes. I know that since we have opened up the Readfield Beach to free to all Readfield residents, which I am a big proponent of. I think that community-centered locations are very vital, important to our area as a whole. I would just like to see a lot more awareness of the beach to outside communities, not too much that it's packed, but just enough so we can get a little bit more revenue out of the beach as a whole. I have now started to transition away from doing that more maintaining aspect and more bringing it out of the winter condition that it was in, and more planning events and more community gatherings that we can plan in the future. For instance, I know that during Heritage Days, we are doing fireworks coming up, which I am very excited to see the outcome of. I know that brings a lot of the community together, and I am excited to see the results of that. I would like to do a lot more planning with the local Heritage Society of Readfield in the future. I think that's a really good organization to partner with the beach, especially since they really are focused on bringing the town of Readfield together. We're focused on bringing the town of Readfield together. So more involvement with these two organizations I see being very fruitful coming up. I think that collaborations with summer school is a priority of mine. I know when I was doing school, I loved going outside, and I think that we have a wonderful piece of property at the beach, and I would love to see kids be more engaged during summer school, and I think that would be a wonderful opportunity to let them be engaged, to have class outside in the beautiful sun, and maybe even go put their feet in the water while they learn about math. I think we should probably put a donation box up, so that way we're not charging more, we're not impeding the people that visit in large prices, but we're also allowing a little bit more funds to be dedicated to the beach in the future for projects that would benefit the community as a whole. I also think a community idea box would be a very good implementation at the beach that would get a lot of ideas that people wouldn't feel comfortable directly confronting to either me or Eric on ideas that we can have at the beach. So they can just write something down, slip it in an idea box, and I think that would be a really good way to do that. In terms of other events that I have for ideas, was that I noticed that we have a large group of families that come, and I thought we could center a lot of programs around that. Like, I know that bouncy castles and face painting and stuff like that would be a very good idea to attract those types of people. Any questions? Yes.
Water testing. I assume the testing is because you're worried about what the geese are doing, fecal coliform. And I thought I saw maybe you had some mileage expense. You're running those samples to a state lab?
Absolutely. It's a state lab right next to the YMCA in
And how
Augusta.
are they responsive? How soon do you get those results back so that if we do have a problem, we can take the appropriate action?
What I've been told is that they are closed over the weekend, so we get them on Monday since I deliver them on Friday, but we have recently changed that, so I'm now going to be delivering them on Wednesday, so we can get those test results on Thursday.
Okay, so basically, though, it's a once-a-week test, but you're doing it now midweek so that we'll have a snapshot on both sides.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Do we have any results so far?
So the two results that have come back have shown that there has been no trace of E. coli or other dangerous chemicals in the water, and that it has been good so far.
Thank you.
It's excellent.
The process for getting day passes for residents, I just recently went through that. It seemed very easy. We had, I spoke with Morgan and London, who I think are also there. Have you seen a lot of folks utilizing the free beach passes?
Oh, all the time. I probably process 5 to 10 season passes a day. I noticed that a lot of people take advantage of this. I noticed that it's a really inconvenient, it's a quick form. Also, we're able to tell people about the services that we offered when we give them the application. For example, the swimming lessons that Eric offered. I am persistent in trying to remember to explain to people with children that, hey, we are offering these programs. It's a really good program. It's done by the YMCA, and it would be a really good opportunity for you and your children.
Great. Thank you. It was very easy, and I just want to give a shout out to all the help down there for that.
I would also like to say that London and Morgan have been an excellent team members at the beach, and I would like to, if they're listening to the broadcast, thank them for their.
Yes, they were very helpful indeed.
So both of those types of passes can be procured right at the beach? You don't have to
Absolutely.
come to the town office?
It's usually a little bit easier to do it here, but you certainly don't have to.
It was very easy. And I'll tell you something, they knew exactly what to do. Any questions, they understood the process. They were able to get me my passes. One thing I'll say, remember, make sure you get your license plate numbers. I had to do some quick texting because I didn't know my wife's license plate number. Go ahead, Carol.
So if someone's on foot or on a bike, which my daughter will be often, what do they do?
So I assume that those people would be from Readfield if they're on a bike or if they're walking down. I think I take the personal idea that if they're that determined to come here through a bike or walking, that they deserve to get in.
Yeah.
Okay. Or
Amen.
if they take a snapshot on their phone or whatever.
Yeah, if they have an
Okay.
ID or something on them.
With a full registration, we do identify the children and other dependents that would be on the form. So we actually have a full list of 100 and something, 200 people probably that we can cross-reference once someone does get that free pass and get the registration and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would have to just piggyback off of that. Yeah, we absolutely at the beach all the time have babysitters, grandparents that come down, and we need to double check to just verify that the children belong to Readfield residents.
And we also write walk-in on some of the passes, but I know she did come down today, we'll let walk-in.
Nice. Great job, Noah. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah.
For
Great
taking this
job.
on,
Thank you
and
very much.
your ideas sound good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. Eric, would you like to continue about
Sure.
our reports?
Yes, so we also in the packet have a bit of a report from the transfer station. It's indirect, but we do have the Hazardous Waste Day coming up, and that is July 11th at the transfer station. And we have a full listing of items that are acceptable and not acceptable. This form is available online and also here at the town office. Pre-registration is required so that we can schedule and not have too much material coming in that we can't handle. We don't want people waiting. So we do schedule a few folks every 15-minute block. And we're able to get everybody through that way. So this is a great way to get rid of old paint, old gas, household cleaners, electronics, bulbs, all those things that you might be holding on to in your garage or maybe there when you moved there. We regularly get some of that stuff. But that is coming up July 11th. Again, 8 a.m. to noon, pre-registration required at the town office. And then the event is taking place at the transfer station.
May I interrupt for a quick second?
Sure.
can you make that the solid waste committee's contribution to the messenger for this month?
Yes, and I already have a copy of it.
Okay, so the registration page will be in there too? Okay, perfect. Thank you for doing my work, Eric.
Hey,
Wait a second.
my pleasure. The other item we have in here that's newer is a report from the code enforcement officer. We had tried to go through this exercise in years past, but transitions and just life seemed to have gotten in the way. But I said, Chip, you've been here for about 3 months. Why don't you write me a quarterly report?
It's time.
It's time. And so it's great to have these statistics and this information. It helps give the select board a bit of an idea of what's happening in the community analytically with the number of permits that are issued for new construction or for renovation, and also some of the qualitative things, what's coming before the planning board, what some of the hot spots are, and so on. So that's another staff report that we haven't had for a couple of years, but I'm happy to see that coming back. And I do plan on working with Chip to make sure that happens quarterly for you folks.
Great. Thank you.
The other announcement I have is that we will have I should have done this with the transfer station, this is just new today, but we're going to be advertising actively. July 3rd from 12 to 4 at the transfer station, we will be having a vaccination clinic. It'll be a mobile clinic. Folks can come in, get their Johnson & Johnson vaccine if they choose to, and it'll be a convenient way for folks that are passing through, if they haven't been vaccinated, to just stop by and get it done.
And when is that again, Eric?
What's that?
When is that again?
July 3rd, Saturday, July 3rd,
All right. And where is it?
at the transfer station.
I think it's getting posted.
Yeah, Dennis does the
Yes, yeah.
live blogging or live Facebooking oftentimes at the town
what I
office
do.
here. So that's a few highlights. Next, I'll go through my treasurer's report, which I will try to move quickly through because it's a bit of an odd month, and the comparisons year to year are a little bit tricky because of COVID. Multiple times in this report, I say that, well, COVID messed everything up. And it certainly did. Our numbers are skewed. One of the biggest variances you'll see is in motor vehicles. We increased about 100% from May of 2020 to May of 2021. That was a big increase, but in part because everything was starting to shut down hard last May. And people still love buying vehicles, which is great. It brings in a lot of revenue, but it does make for some wonky numbers. Another number I'd like to point out is in all other revenues went from 570,000 and change in May of 2020 to just 27,000 in May of 2021, almost 28. And the reason for that large variance is that in May of that year is when we had received our bond proceeds for the fire station and library renovation projects. So that certainly threw us for a loop when you try to compare year to year or even month to month. The year-to-date numbers are looking much more normal and what we would expect. I'll back up a little bit and say that check reconciliation was completed for the month. Everything looked normal. All of our accounts are in balance. With respect to the audit, the draft audit was presented in May. That is another one that had a significant COVID impact. We usually like to see those audits come in February, March at the latest. But this one was delayed significantly because of field staff not being able to get here with our audit firm. So that made things slower. But again, as we pointed out last meeting, the results were positive and we had no issues. The budget, we did have the last budget meeting for the public hearing in May. And that the summary there was that if everything was approved as we expected, that we would have just a very small decrease in what folks are paying out of pocket for real estate taxes. So, and by small, I'm talking if you have a $250,000 house, you might pay $4 to $6 less this year than last year. But it's still not bad, considering that we were faced with a small increase on the school side. The municipal side, we were able to drop things down just a little bit more. So overall, we have some anomalous numbers, but I think that we're very much on track. We would expect to be about 92% expended and with revenue coming in over that time period through May. And I'm happy to take any questions on my treasurer's report.
No, thank you very much.
All right. So my town manager's report, one of the things that I, have a responsibility for is to talk about issues in our community that can be challenging. And one of those issues came up this election and voting cycle. And that was Article 38 and the situation around it. So I am going to just read a statement that summarizes my thoughts and impressions about what the issue is, how divisive I believe it was for our community, and what we might do to try to change the tone and civility that really is expected at public meetings, but should also be expected in public discourse. So I'm just going to read a few statements.
Just quickly
Ralph,
interrupt. I believe that it's important that Eric's entire statement be read into the record versus taking highlights here and there. That way, nothing is left to conjecture, and it certainly won't add an inordinate amount of time to our meeting schedule.
I'll try to keep it less than 5 minutes, and
Read fast and breathe.
I will read fast and not breathe. But so Article 38, this was a proposal that included a slate of changes to the land use ordinance. Similar ordinances changes have been proposed and approved every year since the ordinance was first passed. And I don't recall a time when something didn't pass with these routine changes. These changes seek to clarify the ordinance language and prevent conflict and conflicting uses of property. The dozen or so changes that were proposed in Article 38 were intended to correct wording that could too easily be misconstrued or misinterpreted or have unintended consequences. And this is something that the Select Board discussed, the Planning Board discussed, and there was a lot of thought and effort put behind it to move it forward. We all want to see community centers in Readfield. We want to see them serve our residents, all ages, everybody. We have several community centers already. We could always use more. But there were several provisions of Article 38 that would have made it easier for community centers to successfully open in areas where they would not conflict with the surrounding land uses, and just they would be able to open and operate in a way that wasn't destructive. And unfortunately, I think that we're in a situation where we have really negative speech coming out and in lots of different forms, and I just want to address that. So the ordinance changes were intended to correct that, and we all do want to have positive change in our community. And that's where I want to start with this statement. Let's see, okay, so the current definition of a community center club, it's very narrow, it's limiting, and it conflicts with broader zoning provisions. So it's not just that the language was imprecise. It really doesn't fit very well with the overall conditions of the zone, or really any zone, because it is so narrow. It doesn't give the room that community centers need to operate effectively in the town of Readfield. So Article 38 plainly asked about changes in the land use ordinance. That was it. Despite what many residents were told, it was not a referendum on the proposed community center and associated parking facility at Millstream Road. The vote did not have any impact on the proposed project there because that project was already being reviewed under the old land use ordinance, the existing land use ordinance. So the changes that were proposed would have had no impact on the proposed activity down there currently. Also, I want to point out that the vote was not a mandate to the Select Board. It is not clear why the article was voted down or what portion of the article or ordinance changes voters objected to. We do know that there was a tremendous amount of misinformation presented around the intent, the impact, and the scope of Article 38. It would be unprofessional for town boards, committees, or staff to actively try to influence the outcome of a vote And it would also be worse for us and make the situation more difficult for us to get into a public back and forth with an aggrieved property owner, which is where we were headed if we had taken action to respond to the many comments that were made. We needed to make sure that that vote happened without a lot of conflict. We did our part. It was a difficult choice to make, but we all deserve better. We did not want to have Readfield, back in the KJ, back in the Press Herald, have news crews coming down and saying, well, what's going on down here? People deserve better than that. What we deserve is to have a discussion that is not divisive and does not have misleading statements being peddled door to door or delivered to our mailboxes. With the vote now behind us, I think it's really important that we make a few clarifying statements. And I've started to do that, but I'm going to have to be a bit more direct, unfortunately, as we move along with this issue. Mr. Bitar directly and repeatedly misled the public in a very negative way. While we're limited in our response due to the commitment that we have to civil discourse and the very high legal bar that we face as elected and appointed officials, we can state that dishonest and disingenuous speech should not have a place in our politics or in our government. Mr. Bitar's threatening emails to members of the planning board, accusing them of criminal activity, are offensive and without merit. His statements that the town of Readfield is corrupt and oppressive are absurd, and they should be offensive to all of our residents who live here or have any role in municipal government, whether they vote, unlike Mr. Bitar, or whether they just live here. His baseless attacks on town staff and volunteers only serve to mislead and demoralize our community. Town staff, volunteers, and the public deserve better. I encourage the select board to make a public statement condemning the many false and inflammatory statements that have been made and asking for a change in the tone going forward. What we went through over the past 2 months as a community and several years before, in all honesty, we deserve better than that. The town can have an open and thoughtful discussion without that kind of speech. The truth of the matter is that Mr. Bitar has repeatedly sought to open an event center designed and intended to hold about 200 people in the middle of a residential neighborhood. He has repeatedly violated state and local laws over the past several years in an attempt to dictate the outcome he wants, despite the full awareness that it is at odds with the legal use of his property. His property sits on top of an irreplaceable historic site and natural resource protection area and is next to sensitive public infrastructure. The nearest neighbor to his concert barn is 50 feet away. That's building to building. It's not 1,000 feet, as he repeatedly stated in writing and in people's living rooms. Here are some of the recent facts about this issue, because not a lot of this has been presented or discussed, and certainly not by Mr. Bitar. In 2018, Mr. Bitar applied to the planning board for a community center and club, just as is being presented again this time around, and he was denied on valid grounds. In 2018, Mr. Bitar tried to change the zoning of his property, but was denied because the change would be illegal. He took the action of suing the town at significant cost and lost. In 2018, he lied to the planning board and to the code enforcement officer about his intent to use the property as a single-family home, and then attempted to open a concert venue. His ability to use the property was revoked. He sued the town, again at great cost, and lost. This wasn't any action the town took. This was him suing us over his misstatements and misrepresentation to a public board. He also does not currently have the ability to use the property for anything other than a single-family home. He does not have a legal community center. He does not have a legal event center. The Emporium, was not closed by the town, and the vote on Article 38 did not reopen it. Reopening it and closing it is entirely up to Mr. Bitar. And the reopening is subject to local and state permitting. Town staff and officials have always supported the right to a legal process that is based in fact, but we never guaranteed an outcome for any project at Millstream Road. Every resident has a right to a process, but not to an outcome. Given the public interest in this issue and frankly, the tremendous amount of misinformation that's been put out there, I've put several years worth of documents on the town website under a page for the Millstream Road Land Use Information page. And I want the public to look at this. I want them to have all of the information and all the facts around this issue. All property owners have a right to use their property legally, and they have a right to due process, but they are not simply entitled to an outcome they want, no matter how idealistic it is. We all have grand visions, we all have dreams, we all have hopes for the town of Readfield, but there is a process, and we have to respect other people along the way. And that includes not building a 200-person concert and event center 50 feet from a neighbor. The rights and responsibilities of all property owners are established and protected by the land use ordinance and the comprehensive plan at the local level. These are the legally established documents that the Planning Board, Appeals Board, and Select Board use in reviewing land use activities. As a community, we support the arts, we support cultural experiences and diversity, we recognize beauty in old buildings, and we celebrate our history. We had a groundbreaking ceremony for the small park that was built collaboratively down at Millstream a couple of years ago. We celebrate these things, but we also have to understand and celebrate the fact that we have a residential character, we have a rural character, and we have a right to the sanctity of our homes. And I'm speaking very much directly to the people that are around potential land uses that may be challenging or may not be allowed. We need to agree that divisive politics and dishonesty have no place in our community. We need to adopt a civil tone in this issue moving forward. And again, I very strongly request that the Select Board, if anything, approach this issue with that tone as we have for the past several years, but demand it of those folks that seem unwilling to have a discussion in that manner. We can encourage that by discussing facts and not fiction, and considering the rights of all of our property owners and not just the ones who speak the loudest. So thanks for your time and listening to that. That's been something that has needed to be said for several months. And I apologize if I got a little bit emotional about it, but it's a very important thing for our community to have open discussions in a way that we can get positive results from.
Ralph?
I think it's high time that the town's position was actually laid out for people to hear and to digest, so to speak. And I believe it's an accurate reflection of what the town's position has been. And I would move that the Select Board endorse the town manager's report of the situation so that hopefully we can, as he suggests, move forward in a positive fashion.
Second that, but I'd like to have discussion too, and Carol has comment.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to endorse the letter from Eric. We have discussion open on the floor. Carol, would you like to speak first?
Yes. So, and this is a big topic. I'm glad we're addressing it. I've heard a lot from both sides. It seems a lot brought us to this point. I'm not sure I have the whole picture, to be honest with you. I think some people that did vote the way that they did are hoping something can be done with the barn. I don't know what. I guess that's the whole thing, is whatever brought us to this point is history, horrible history for our town. but is there a way we can come together? I don't think he had an idea of a 200-person venue, but I mean, we've lived catty corner from the Emporium for years, and it's always been quiet. It's most of the time, you don't even know that there's music going on there. There's never been disruption. There's not loud music. There's not noise late into the evening. And I think it was a similar vision. So I guess I'm just curious if sound minds can come together and just come up with something. I've heard, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, that there was a use permit maybe or request for a group to hold meetings there that maybe was never addressed. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. But I guess the question that a lot of people have is there a use for the barn and what might that be within maybe current rules or something that can be negotiated?
Ralph, go ahead.
Well-
Or Catherine, you
No,
also.
go ahead, Ralph.
I just think that any of this has to be done within the context of existing regulations and town oversight to try to end run longstanding zoning regulations creates a longstanding and hazardous precedent for the town at large. We cannot simply make exceptions for individual property owners simply because there seems to be a goodwill initiative or I want to do something here that I feel is the right thing. It all has to be done in context. And to my mind, as an individual board member, I think that process needs to be followed, and it needs to be followed rigorously so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have conflicting precedents that then put the town in other parts of our community at jeopardy because we have made a decision that doesn't necessarily conform to what the rules say. And what I understand is that the rules say that the proposed use, and from what I understand about the process to date, now that it's been revisited, is that there are still a large number of questions as yet to be defined as to what specifically that use will be. So until that gets done, I don't think that the town can do anything but rigorously stand up for and defend the rules that protect us all. Without exception, there is an appeals board. That function can certainly be used. But to date, those avenues have not produced an outcome for the appellant, and I'm not sure that they will, but I'm not in that particular seat. What I do want to make sure of is that the town is not perceived as being the bad guy here. We are doing our job, and we cannot compromise our rules to any extent to the advantage of anyone. And that's why I feel Eric's statement accurately reflects the process to date. And I feel it's incumbent upon the board to back up the town's position. And he has effectively elucidated the town's position and therefore my motion.
Right. Thank you, Ralph. Catherine?
Oh, anyone else want to go? So I agree with Ralph wholeheartedly and with Eric. The function of the select board is to establish policy and to present ideas and articles and budgets to the town legislative body, which is town meeting. And that's where land use ordinances are passed and comprehensive plan uses are passed. They're developed in this community by a whole lot of volunteers from many boards. It really isn't our role to do anything here other than to support the idea that we need to operate by a set of rules. And that set of rules is what was voted on at town meeting. And in this case, we didn't pass Article 38, which was our land use revisions. So I am hopeful that the planning board will revisit that now, and we'll have probably a special town meeting. I don't know how they'll handle that, but that's up to them. We don't put our finger into each pot, so to speak, but we try to do the broad kind of applying of rulemaking and making sure that everybody is treated fairly. It's difficult right now because we have 3 seated members. Wow, okay. Who are very familiar with this whole situation, and we have 2 folks who are new, and I don't know how much you've read up on that. So I'm not sure that this is really fair to bring to a vote tonight, and that's where I was going after my second. I absolutely think we need to do this, and I will support it at whatever time we do it. I was going to suggest that maybe we postpone this till our next meeting to give our 2 new members a chance to read through, say, everything that was put up on the website. That may not be the best decision. This may be the moment to just support the town manager with the knowledge that everybody has.
Right. Well, I want to make sure we're getting our discussion in, but I want to be respectful of the other items on the agenda. Sean?
Yeah, so I just want to say that I did not know the history prior to running for select board. I ran for select board because of working at the beach, working with the rec board, working on Heritage Days, and the fun stuff that I've enjoyed in town. I have never had a conversation with Mr. Bitar in any shape about any of his agreements. However, many of you know that it seemed as if I had conversations with him based on the wonderful paintings on his buildings and some of the stuff he put in the advertiser. So personally, I also have felt some of the emotions that Eric clearly described, and my reading has since amped up because of that, and I feel like I can't take a vote after going through a similar situation for no reason. So.
Well, and I was a lucky recipient of that as well, and I believe you were the year
think we've all-
before.
yeah.
Well, not all of us yet.
Yeah, that's
Not all
right.
of us yet.
Stay tuned.
And you know, it's, that's the civil discourse part that we're talking about, and it's completely inappropriate. The year that I was running for reelection, I went to the transfer station and I was accosted. He was standing in his truck screaming at people across the parking lot. You know, and this is the kind of civil discourse that I think Eric is talking about, that this select board needs to publicly say that's the wrong way to go about doing things, that there is a right way, and it's to be able to come to a meeting and to calmly discuss. And if you can't do that, then bring legal counsel or bring someone who can act as a voice for you to represent your position so that it can be heard. But these kinds of experiences that many of us have gone through, and the town staff and people on the planning board and so forth, this is what really needs to come to a close. And I think that's really what we're getting at here tonight.
Ralph, and then we'll,
In fairness to the new members, Catherine has an excellent point there. I am willing to withdraw the motion with the proviso that at our next meeting, it become an action item on the agenda for a decision, because I truly believe, given what has transpired during the course of this very contentious and one-sided situation on the part of the appellant, that the town needs to stand up for what it is doing and say that what we are doing is right and we are being fair, and that we're not picking favorites, but the rules are the rules. So if it is agreed that we can put this on the agenda so you folks can get up to speed, and we put it on the agenda next meeting as an action item for a definitive vote to endorse the town manager's statement as to the town's position, I would withdraw my motion so we don't have to force you guys into voting on something that you may not be comfortable doing right
well,
now.
let's take a moment. We've got a motion on the floor and it has been seconded. Eric?
Just the last thing I want to say is this really is about civil discourse. It is not necessarily about this particular issue. I talked a lot about it, but the reason I'm bringing this to the board is because of all the lies, the negative divisive speech and misstatements. That's the issue. And it's demonstrable.
Right.
It's demonstrable. So I think it's really important to separate. This shouldn't be a referendum on the barn. That's what happened with Article 38. It wasn't really about that, but it was made into a referendum. And I think that it's just important to say going forward that all this stuff isn't right. It's not right to bring down volunteers. And so that's what I'm saying more than anything, is that this is about civil discourse. And I just, don't want to have the next meeting turn into a public hearing on whether or not we should have a concert barn down the street.
I agree. Ralph, and then I'd like to say
So
something.
this is indeed civil discourse, but it also cuts to a more valid and compelling point. And that is that the town has a right and an obligation to enforce its land use rules and regulations and all other things that the voters have entrusted us to do. And this statement is germane to that. And therefore, I believe it is extremely important that we say so. I don't think we have to vote tonight. And as I say, I'm willing to withdraw the motion.
Hold, please, Carol.
Just a quick question. Is there still legal action swirling around this right now that has not been resolved?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. That's all I can say. We have something before the planning board. We have an application before the planning board. Again, the one that was submitted before the vote and heard before the vote and found to be, the application was found to be complete before that vote. So the vote had no impact. We did have a lawsuit from 2018 that was resolved. And so there is no outstanding litigation at this point.
I would just like to say that I appreciate everyone. It's a hard haul to come in and have this. And like you said, hard conversations are hard because you don't know how to have them. And I appreciate everyone having this to say. I feel like we should vote on this tonight. And I'll tell you why. It is more about the support of the statement and where we are as a town, what we expect out of each other, no matter what. And I have to say on a personal level that I have had visits at 8 o'clock at night where I maintain the civility. And at the end of the conversation, I shake hands and we understand where we are. And so I think when you do see these other sort of items going into mailboxes, it's not who we are. And I think Readfield and the select board should endorse this and vote on this because it is coming, it's the next meeting right out. Waiting on it is not something that I necessarily think is the best idea. If you don't feel comfortable, you may certainly abstain. You may vote to not approve it. However, I feel like that's my gut tells me that. Anything else that you guys have?
Then I will not withdraw my motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. We have had discussion. Anything else?
Just a quick response to Carol. There's no ongoing legal suit, but I would say every month we have legal expense due to this issue, and it is not cheap. We're talking many thousands of dollars annually. Tens of thousands are spent on this issue, and I think we can find a better way to use our taxpayer money. And so I think it behooves all of us that this is a stepping stone to get us started.
So once again, the motion on the floor is simply to endorse the report from Eric that sort of lays out the expectations for us going forward in this issue. Anyone have any questions before we vote?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, ma'am. No,
One more.
please.
So is there still something in front of the planning board?
Yes.
Okay. So even if we vote tonight, it may not be a final.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, no. So this is more about how the issue is discussed in public, and how And we have a process. It's just not being utilized very well because things are coming from different directions in a way that I think is divisive to the community as opposed to coming together. So this issue
And a lot of
is
clarifying
separate.
information.
And a lot of clarifying
Yeah,
information.
sure.
We're not
And-
voting on the barn.
And I just want to
No,
point out,
we're not
it's a
voting on the barn,
single-family
yeah.
home.
And hopefully point forward with action on the town manager's report. This will go a long way toward restoring the process to what it should be as it evolves.
Absolutely.
So we're voting on how things should be proceeding, how things should be dealt with, period, and all.
No, what we are voting on is the town manager's
Endorsing his
recitation
report,
of
yeah.
events to date.
Yeah, including the timeline, the information, and the various, I guess, factual pieces of this.
Yes, and getting the town's position out front, which we really could not do as an elected body prior to the election, or we would have been perceived as trying to manufacture an outcome.
And Carol, I do want to say that we have tried and we've followed process and we've done the very best we can to communicate and to be active partners in this. We tried to get to mediation. It didn't work. We've tried lots of different avenues. But what we have, the primary avenue is the planning board, the Board of Appeals, and if deemed appropriate by an aggrieved party, the court system. And I don't want to see this go that direction again. So it's one reason why I'm saying let's try to change the tone of this so that we can have a discussion that's based on facts instead of stuff coming in people's mailboxes that's just plain inflammatory. And that's what I'm asking for, is to recognize that things haven't happened the way they should, but that we can do better and that there are facts out there that are different than those presented to date.
Very well, thank you. I think we should vote. Any questions? Very well. All in favor of endorsing the report of the town manager in regards to what I would call our sort of response after the election? All in favor? Very well. All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Very good, thank you. Very well, the motion will pass. We have now moved on to boards, committees, commissions, and departments. This is the part of the agenda where we will discuss the minutes that have been submitted by these three committees and boards. We appreciate the Age-Friendly Committee, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and the Library Board minutes as well. Are there any questions about these? All right. I would entertain a motion to accept these minutes. Do we have to do that? Nope, never mind. Very well. Then at the end of these, thank you all for putting those. Yes, it was wonderful. Now we have public communication. This is the portion of the meeting where the public may address. We have set aside 10 minutes for this. And is there public here that would like to speak to the select board?
Come on, Grace.
Come on, Grace, you know you want to talk.
Absolutely.
You know you got to say
Absolutely.
something.
We have a cemetery meeting today up to Kent's Hill Cemetery.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Grace Keene.
Thank
I've been on the cemetery committee since 1996. I came here tonight not necessarily to complain, but I'm very upset with the conditions of our cemeteries. I realize Ben is very overworked, period. But I think we need, I would like to see the town either hire more help, give him more hours, pay him time and a half to do the jobs. When the grass is 3 feet high or 2 feet high, that is not good. I looked up in my records, the Maine cemetery law updated in 2014 by the 126th legislature. all veterans that are buried in public cemeteries are to be cared for with their grass being no higher than 3 inches. Now, I was up to East Readfield this morning and the grass was up to my knees. Kent's Hill hasn't been mowed for over 3 weeks. A good portion of Church Road has not been done. And I realize I'm not criticizing Ben. I know he's well overworked, but I would like to see us do something to care for all the people that are buried in our cemeteries. And it's a disgrace.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Grace.
Thank you.
I'll just let it be known that I spoke with Grace earlier today. Well, she left me a message. And then I spoke with Eric, and there have been some kind of unique circumstances that have come about. Do you want me to address them or would you like to, Eric?
I can certainly do that. And Grace, I understand where you're coming from. It's not where any of us want to be. And we do need to take action to correct that.
Can we do it right off?
We are, yeah. We've had staff that have been unavailable. Anna has been spending a lot of her time on the paving projects. Again, competing interests in town, and she was off last week. She's back now and she can help. We had hired a staff member earlier in the season in April who didn't work out. So we had to rehire and retrain our summer help. And our summer help is typically high school or college students. They weren't able to start full-time until last week. So we have a staffing issue and a staffing shortage. Like many places in the state of Maine, we're having trouble finding workers. We certainly need to do better. And I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just trying to offer some explanations of the staff situation that we have and the limits that we have. So we will be working this week, next week. My commitment is that in 2 weeks, we will have everything back on track, in order, where it needs to be. Starting this week, we'll be right in those cemeteries, continuing to mow with a full staff of 2 and bringing in 3 where we can.
Okay. Because one thing I was going to suggest was there are cemetery trust funds that are supposed to be going towards perpetual care. Ben kind of indicated that he would be willing to work overtime. And I know, it's not in the budget, but there are those funds that could be used. So that's just a suggestion, but
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good one, Grace, and we'll look into that. I mean, he's already working overtime every week.
Who
But
manages?
really, he said he's only works 40 hours
Well, he's
and
got a
half
bunch
of
of
his,
different hats on, I think.
but half of
Yeah.
his time is only for the cemeteries, was what he told us today.
Well, he has his cemetery responsibilities. He does have some building maintenance responsibilities. Again, these things are being shifted around and split. We spent a lot of time this spring continuing to deal with COVID cleaning and precautions. So we will do better, Grace. That's all I can say, and I can commit to that.
Grace, do you know who manages those independent trust funds accounts for the various cemeteries? Or are they all under the town's?
They're all in under the town. Teresa could
And
tell you.
do we appropriate amounts from those various trust funds annually as part of a budget exercise to maintain them?
We do periodically. Each of those trusts does have covenants, if you want to use that word, restrictions on how the funds
How they
can be used. So we'll have to look at that. I think that's a great exercise for the cemetery committee as well to look at and say, if we can look at this together and say, let's utilize some of those funds in a way that makes sense, that helps support this. Also, longer term, we can and need to, I think, look at our budget. Although, again, this isn't just a budgetary issue. This is a staffing issue that
Right.
is statewide, nationwide. Finding people to work in 80-degree heat in the summertime in Maine not the easiest task. We've done it before, but we're not in the same environment we were before. So it's a two-part issue, dollars and staffing, and we'll work to make sure we address both of those issues and start with getting the grass cut.
A couple of suggestions as we move forward, because I've got a sneaking suspicion, having some experience with cemeteries in another life, that this is not unique to Readfield. I'm wondering whether or not, depending on how active the oversight of these trust funds is, whether or not the town and those overseers of those individual trusts might be willing to put all that money in a commingled fund so that you could look at that totality of dollars for management of all the fund, of all the cemeteries. And then the other issue would be, I just, if it's just mowing that's an issue, then perhaps as part of our budgetary discussion, we look at perhaps contracting out some level of mowing annually to private concerns so that the town isn't overwhelmed. And at least at Memorial Day, the 4th of July, and Labor Day, they are all completely mowed and trimmed. And if we need auxiliary help from private sector to do that, then I think we ought to do that. And if we can't commingle the funds, at least appropriately attach funds from the individual accounts to make sure that happens. But that's a budget consideration that maybe ought to be on the
Longer
table.
term, yeah,
for us
we
next
absolutely
year.
need to discuss that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Grace. Thank you very much. Are there other members of the public that would like to address the select board? Yep, go ahead.
Hi there. I'm Matt Nazar. I live at 62 Old Kent Hill Road. For those of you who've opened your mailbox in the last couple of years, you might recognize my name. I do want to thank the board for its statement earlier today with respect to civil discourse. I think it's absolutely critical for the community moving forward. I think that you've taken the first step toward that, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, right to the podium, say your name.
Bonnie Harris. We're abutters of Bob Vitar. And I too, we've been through a lot of turmoil the past 8 years over the barn situation. And we want to thank Eric for his statement tonight, and we want to thank the board for endorsing it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom, Bill?
No.
Okay. Would you like, go ahead, please, go right ahead. Just when you get to the podium, just state your name.
My name's Casey Coyne. I just wanted to say that, Bob's been going around town basically defacing my family, which is incredibly disrespectful, and especially my mother. And I'm not a very good public speaker, but it's gone on and on and on. And since high school, I've known Bob. He's come up to my tables when I ate food at his restaurant, and one day he's a lawyer, one day he's a doctor, one day he's something else. Like, he's a sociopath, and it's kind of become crazy that he has gone this far and gone around town blasting my mother and blasting my family. And I'm really sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it, and I can't stand it. He needs to figure out what the fuck, or sorry. What stance he wants to make, basically. And I know that he nothing about what he wants to do I have anything against, nor does my family, but what he's doing to create that has become crazy. And he's become crazy, and it's just, everything's sort of spiraled out of control.
I'd just like to say I'm sorry that you're experiencing that being here in Readfield. and that.
I haven't been here for a long, I just came back a couple years ago and
Well-
I kind of
Well, I
walked.
hope
And
you
your
stay.
family.
Don't let this get you down.
And
It's crazy.
I
It's
can
insane.
tell you that this board will try to do whatever we can to try and keep things on a more civil level.
Nobody has anything against a community center or a music center. Just everything that he's done and gone about it has just driven everything out of control. Like,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members? All right. Well, this is the part of the agenda where we go to the appointments, reappointments, and resignations. And this is, I guess, the very first thing we have to figure out is the 21-139, conduct the election of the select board chair and vice chair. I've been running this meeting because I was the previous
default.
vice chair. Yes, sir.
But
Yep.
If I may make a motion, Mr. By Default Chair,
Yes.
I would move that the slate of officers for the upcoming fiscal year be Mr. Price as chair and Ms. Mills Woodson as vice chair for a period beginning tonight and I guess through the end of the fiscal year,
Nope, through the next election.
through the next election. Okay. Very
It
good.
has been moved and seconded that Catherine is the vice chair and I am the chair of the select board. Is there any discussion on that? Very well. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you very much. I
Bless
appreciate
you.
it very much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your trust.
Bless
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. With that being said, number 21-140 is consider the appointment of select board members to the following positions. These are things that we sort of divvy up among ourselves. The first is the note taker. The note taker is different than minutes. I don't know how, but Eric can probably explain.
Well, Chris had been doing it, not because she was vice chair, but because she liked to do it. She would just take a very short sentence to say, Eric said he would do this and notify the board. Catherine said she would do this and get back to us at the next meeting, that type of thing. Dennis said he would post this on Facebook, just so that we, and then it would be sent to Eric, who then sends it out to the board because we can't send anything to each other than just, I could talk to Carol, but I can't see anybody else because then that would make three of us having a conversation.
Yes.
So that's what the note taker duty is.
Very well. Is there someone who would like to volunteer for the note taker?
Basically, they're just one-liners for highlights of the meeting. So
One-liners.
it's not a lot of heavy lifting, but it's very, very helpful.
Maybe we should go down through all of them first so
Sure.
people have an idea.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yes,
to do.
indeed. We will also split up the quarterly warrant reviewers. We will do 4 of these. And basically, you will be responsible for coming in. You'll get an email that says the warrants are up for review. Ralph?
Since I have by default picked up the first quarter, I would be willing to follow through until the end of October.
Great. That
for
sounds
quarter
great.
number 1,
Yeah, absolutely. So then there's October,
end of September. Yeah.
end of September. So there's October, November, December.
We're going to divvy them up after we talk.
Oh, sorry. I'm not doing right
But
things.
you have one commitment.
There is yes, so those are the, then we'll do the Broadband Internet Committee representative, who is currently Catherine. The Solid Waste and Recycling Committee representative, which is also Catherine. The Comprehensive Plan Committee representative, which I am doing. The Readfield Enterprise Committee representative, which I don't think we have anyone on currently. And
What is that?
the Readfield Enterprise Committee is a committee that is able to basically accept applications and give money to small businesses that are based in Readfield.
There is a loan or a grant.
Yeah, there's a loan situation.
been-
It's a long-term, low-rate loan that sort of is a starter kind of program. Chris Salmons did that in her former thing. And the Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors, I have been on, Ralph has been on, and Chris Salmons has been on. However, I would like to, I'm continuing to do the comprehensive plan, and the assessors is something that I know. However, now that I am in this position, I may not have the time. The assessors help with taxes, levying the, figuring out the tax burden and levying the mill rate. So it's a really interesting look at how those things come to be. And David Ledoux, the assessing agent of the town, is able to explain the most complex concepts very simply.
And you also look at requests for abating
Abatements.
taxes, which is to have people have their taxes lowered.
For various reasons.
Various reasons.
Perhaps a reassessment. They go to they had a finished basement, but now it's not. Or they didn't
Homestead
have-
exemptions, those types of things.
They unfinished.
It's a whole laundry list of basically taxable issues that come before the Board of Assessors.
So note taker, quarterly warrant, we'll divvy those up. Broadband Internet Committee representative, Catherine, do you want us to keep that? Are we going to open that up?
I would like, well, I don't think anybody wants to take on
Nobody
broadband.
wants to do it.
I actually think it would be interesting.
As exciting as it is, yeah, I mean,
It's Catherine.
But is
It's-
that a state, does a state have something they're trying to do
we're
statewide?
trying to work that
With
this
that-
committee would be the Readfield extension or sort of liaison.
To answer your question, no, the state has money. The state has money that state voters approved, and they have a whole lot of money that's come through from the federal government.
But they don't know how to use it.
It's not real
Yeah.
money, but it's going to come.
Yeah.
And we want some of it.
Yeah.
Great.
So can we do this now? Let's go. Any more
let's-
questions? Do you have any more questions
do it.
about any of these? Okay. Who wants to be the note taker? Carol?
Do we need one?
You can
Let me see at
take them
the
right
end.
while you're in the meeting,
Yeah.
and then just email it to
Yeah.
Eric at the end.
It'll
of the
also
meeting.
be good to occupy in case you
Tend
get
to
a
do
little.
that anyway.
Yeah.
If you're interested, Carol, I can certainly send you the 2 or 3 examples.
Copy of Chris's stuff.
It's literally
It's
just
just
4 or
highlights.
5 bullet
Okay,
points.
can today be like
You got this.
a pass because?
Absolutely, of
pass.
course, of course. Oh, my heavens. Oh, my heavens. You a pass given. Don't you worry about this one. So Carol, thank you for
Don't use
that.
them all up right in the first meeting.
Ralph has the first quarter. We need someone for what I would call the fall months, October, November, December.
I'll take whatever quarter no one else wants. but
All right.
I would make a suggestion
You want to do the fall, Carol? Okay, great.
that both Carol and Sean sit with Ralph soon.
Mm-hmm.
Not leave it to wait, because if you,
Bring alcohol.
No, God.
but if you could meet him here at the town office,
Sure,
it wouldn't
anytime.
have to be all 3 of you together, but 2
Well,
of you. Then you could see what's happening and how we go through them. And then when we have our meetings, like tonight, when we go through a warrant, you'll have an idea of what someone has already done to look at them, and do you trust that we're giving it enough eyes on?
How often do the warrants come up for meeting you?
Every 2 weeks.
that's-
Well, so I guess I'll back up. We process warrants every 2 weeks. Oftentimes they were reviewed and approved outside of a meeting because of our meeting schedule, but then they were reviewed publicly at the next publicly held meeting. So we do have a very rigid payment schedule that we follow and protocol and all that.
Yeah.
But the actual public review is every more or less every meeting. But the review has to happen every time we look at a warrant every 2 weeks.
And you will get calls when they fall outside of our regularly scheduled meetings because the warrant issues that are for vendors require 3 signatures. The payments to the state, and I believe payroll only require 1. So that 1 signature gets people paid and we can send our money off to the Secretary of the State.
And we
But
usually sign it
ultimately,
later.
And that happens every week.
Every-
So when
pretty
it's your
much, yes.
quarter, you'll come in every week. But it's literally, okay, we collected, Teresa has it all. We collected this much for snowmobiles, this much for boats, this much for cars, and any other licensing kinds of fees. We take the money in, we send the money out. And the state wants it every week, which is why we have to send it in every week.
So this has to be done when the town office is open.
that's right.
Yes.
And
yep.
Wednesdays, you're open till 6?
We're
Well,
open till,
that's right.
yeah, we have the regular schedule open till 6. But
right. I'm
if you
seeing
need to
that
come
wheel in
in
your
and
mind
look,
going.
yeah, if you need to come in and look at the warrant, text me, call me. I'll find a way to make sure you can get in and look at it.
So Carol, I have you down for the second quarter. We have the third quarter, which is January, February, March. Sean, and Catherine, and
Take spring.
I'm going to use the Bruce Burgoyne free agent stipulation, which says if you are the chairman, if somebody needs to be called, or if they say, Dennis, quick, come in, I'll just float in and be able to swipe in. So I'm the free agent.
So if you can't make it because like something comes up and you can't come that day, you can call Dennis. He won't appreciate that as much as if you tell him, I can't get there next week. Could you take my week? Like I'm on vacation and it's my week. For
Yeah, just holler at me and I'll be there for you. Excellent. So we have divvied those up. We're now at the Broadband Internet Committee representative.
I'd like to stay doing it.
Okay.
Eric, could we have two?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
If you want to do it, Sean, I'm fine to have.
I'd be curious anyway, you know.
just to
I know,
clarify,
I think that'd
Come
be
on
great.
and you
A
really
little
like it,
taste.
I can like fade back.
A little teasing, a little taste. Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. Solid Waste and Recycling Committee representative.
I've been doing that and that's the one I really like doing, so I'd like to keep doing it.
Sounds
That's
good.
all
If you
right.
don't mind doing those too, Sean helping will sort of ease the load. Comprehensive Plan Committee representative, I want to keep doing that just because I've been doing it now for a while, so it kind of makes sense.
And Sean's already on the committee, correct?
Well, as a matter of fact, no. There is a new representative from the rec board.
Well, so I'm going to step down as that liaison from rec to comprehensive plan committee, and someone else from rec
Will be coming on.
will be coming on.
Okay.
Could he be our backup member for the select board for you, Dennis? Would that be appropriate?
He has been involved in it, so that would maybe a
So
backup
he
on
could
the
fill
select
in
board.
if you can't make it?
Yeah.
Or maybe just become an alternate. Haven't we used all our
Yeah.
alternates?
Hang on
up?
Yeah, I
one
think
second.
we
Yeah,
can.
they're
Sure,
alternates.
yeah.
So I just want to say that the meeting on the agenda is scheduled till 8. However, when we know that we're going to run late, we always sort of stop and we move to pass an extension. So I'd like to move to extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
That's not going to work because we've got 45 minutes of stuff to do.
Okay. So then.
Make it an hour. and
Yeah,
get
we
out
might
early.
as well, yeah, I'd make a motion to extend the meeting by 60 minutes to end at 9.
You said it was going to be over
Second.
quick.
It has moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Do we really have, I'm just kidding.
We won't. We could get out early if we're
Stop
going to
talking
we're going to be
so much.
respectful of the agenda. All in favor of the extension? Thank you very much. Good. Enterprise Committee representative.
No, we were still on.
Oh, we're
alternate.
still doing comprehensive. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, just, and it's broadly, universally applicable for the benefit of our new members that all of these appointments to the committees, unless they're established by ordinance, like the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, which does have an ordinance that backs it up, most of these are established by the select board through a policy document whereby the board dictates the membership of the committee, the makeup, the types of people that you'd like to see on there, whether you want, a real estate agent or something like that, how many select board representatives you'd like. So the board basically has a lot of discretion over how those groups are formed and how they respond, when they're expected to report back, all that stuff. So we have policies for, or ordinances for every committee or board in town. And so that's the governing document. So things like having an extra person on the broadband or on comp plan, those are documents that you could just say, hey, we're going to modify that and we're going to have another representative from the select board. So
Gotcha.
that's what I had to say.
And we
Thank you.
don't carry any extra weight by being from the select board. We don't have to be in control. Anybody from solid waste who'd like to chair and be secretary, feel free to volunteer.
Are we done talking about the comprehensive plan? Okay, good. Readfield Enterprise Committee representative. That's the small business thing.
I'd
Karen?
be interested in
Yeah, I
that.
think that'd be great for you. And the Board of Assessors.
I'm going to say that I don't want to do that because I'm already doing 2 other very time-intensive
Agreed.
committees. So I guess that leaves.
I would be willing to do the Board of Assessors again. I like it. And the best part about it is it coincides with our meetings, our select board meetings. So we usually beforehand we'll get together. And it really is interesting to me about the tax stuff. So I would like to stay on the Board of Assessors.
I will stay as well.
Ralph is going to stay on the Board of Assessors. Would one of you fine folks like to join us on the Board of Assessors?
For the fall, I could not.
Okay.
Due to the time,
Do the time?
yeah, getting
Oh.
here for 6:30 on a Monday is tough enough.
Okay.
Might
Doesn't
not be
have
a
to be
bad
there.
tie-in for you, Carol, actually. given
No,
that-
it wouldn't be a bad time. Do you start
And
at 5:30?
Yeah, and it's.
5:30 or 6.
Yeah, sometimes 6 o'clock because it's
It's
an
like
easier-
one item.
Does that sound like it? All right,
Well,
awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a little arm
Trying
twist.
to reel it in, aren't you?
All right, thank you very much. And that is our slate for the assessors. Item 21-141 is consider the resignation of Bob and Jean Harris from the Trails Committee. It's in your packet. It is unfortunate, but they do so much. I'm sure they'll be involved somehow in something coming up. So they are pretty fantastic. So I would move that we, with regrets, accept this resignation from the Trails Committee.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Very well. In your packet, generally what we will do is approve these as a slate of appointments. A lot of these are reappointments, just folks being
It's page
re-upping
22.
for their time spent. If you notice in your packet, you can see which ones we have. Essentially on page 22 of your packet, you can see for the Appeals Board, Holly, the Cemetery Committee, Library Board of Trustees, Planning Board, and Trails Committee.
I'll make a motion to approve Holly Ramlow and Henry Whittemore to the Appeals Board for a period of 3 years. Grace Keene, Marianne Heinrich Perry, Andrews Tolman to the Cemetery Committee for terms of 3 years. Patricia Clark and Jackie Druin to the Library Board of Trustees for a period of 3 years. Don Witherell to the Planning Board for a period of 5 years. You're lucky tonight. And Greg Durgan to the Trails Committee for a period of 3 years.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the slate of reappointments for these committees. Is there any discussion? Very well. All in favor? Very good. It has passed. Excellent. We move on now to the reappointment of Eric Dyer to the positions of Town Manager, Road Commissioner, Treasurer, Tax Collector, and Welfare Administrator. And I think we can do these as a slate as well.
Just had a question. So in the past, I guess I was surprised that a lot of these is the town manager responsibility anyway. It's like in the, okay.
Yep,
So that's-
exactly
I was
right.
just like, wow.
This is all, yeah.
There's a
it's-
lot
yeah.
to it, but
Right.
Okay, but they're all inclusive in the role of town manager.
generally
Typically,
speaking, yes. And there's delegation that happens, and we have a wonderful staff that helps with a vast portion of this work. So yeah, it really is a team, but I have the responsibility to make sure that it all happens appropriately.
Statutory.
I'll make a motion. I have to read through them. I'm not as fast as you.
No, that's okay. Yes, ma'am.
Appoint Eric Dyer to be our town manager for a period of 1 year, to act as the road commissioner for 1 year, to be the treasurer for the town for 1 year, to be the tax collector for 1 year, and to be the welfare administrator for 1 year. And that is it.
It has been moved and seconded to, or has it been seconded?
Second.
Second. It has been moved and seconded for the slate of items to, as they appear to be assigned to Eric. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Very well. Good.
Next one.
Yep, next up is Karen Peterson to be the transfer station manager. Would you like to do that?
I'll make a motion to appoint Karen Peterson as the transfer station manager for a time beginning tonight for 1 year ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept Karen Peterson as the transfer station manager. Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Just very quickly, this is a bit of an anomaly. Typically, and per ordinance, it's a position appointed by the town manager, but I wanted to bring this up to the select board to highlight the fact that this has not happened in several years. We have not had a staff member at the facility with this title. And the reason I'm bringing this forward is because Karen Peterson is an exceptional employee and has done amazing work for the town of Readfield over the past basically 3 years, bringing us forward, helping to expand and improve the offerings we have at that facility. She has done just an absolutely phenomenal job, and I can't say enough how proud and pleased I am to work with her and to have somebody in that role that I can rely on. To make good decisions and to work collaboratively toward making the town a better place. So just I wanted to sing her praise and say that normally I would just do this, but I think it's important to get that recognition out there.
Absolutely, and I can't, yes, absolutely. And I think that I know I, for one, echo that as well. So,
And it's not just the first time in a number of years. It is the first time since we've had the solid waste ordinance that we've had a manager who is not the town manager. So this is a significant step for us, and I hope that some of the duties of the manager will switch over, but we'll talk about that at another time.
very well. All in favor? It is moved. Very well.
Right.
Next up, we are
Cemetery.
Cemetery. We have the appointment, I believe that I'm going to say this correct, Thomas Maloki.
You got it.
All right, to the Cemetery Committee. Everyone
I'll
should have
make a
seen that in
motion
there.
to appoint Thomas Maloki, who does not need to appear, correct, because he served on other committees, to the Cemetery Committee for a term beginning tonight and lasting through, I'm going to read it here, 3 years, 6/30/2024.
All righty.
Second.
Seconded. It has been moved and seconded to appoint Thomas Maloki to the Cemetery Committee for 3 years. Is there any discussion? All in favor. There we go. Stutter stepped on you. Very well. Now is the moment in the agenda where we come to old business. We've allotted 5 minutes for item 21068, which is consider the next steps for investigating broadband internet and the possibility of a local fiber to the home network. I think it would be appropriate to turn this over to Catherine.
Except I did this out of turn during Select Board Communications,
Okay.
so welcome.
And very well.
5 minutes back.
right.
Next item, please.
Perfect. We move now, so that's old business, and what that means is stuff that we have discussed previously that has come forward in this meeting, and now this is, in fact, new business, meaning we have not discussed it before. Item 21146 is the consider a single-year snow and ice control contract with Cushing Construction. In your packets, you should have seen some information discussing this process as well as some of the figures and numbers in there. Eric?
All right, so this has been a lengthy process. I did include a memo, I believe I did, from when we had started this process. Let's see, is it back here? Where is that? Okay, I didn't have that memo. Basically, we've gone through 2 RFP processes, both of which yielded no results. We solicited contractors directly. We basically went door to door, asking folks if they were interested. After the first RFP, we had one contractor come to the pre-bid, but they did not submit a proposal. After the second RFP, we had nobody attend the pre-bid, and we had one contractor submit an informal proposal. We then moved into a separate track that we had discussed with our town attorney to make sure we were being fair to all parties involved, whereby we did try to directly negotiate with contractors, and we asked them to all submit their best proposal to do the work for us. And we did get one formal proposal from Cushing Construction. And so we began the course of negotiating with them. The net result was that we started off with a contract that was probably 40-something% above what we're currently paying. We were able to negotiate that down to roughly 29% more than what we're currently paying. And I appreciate the willingness of John Cushing to extend this contract basically for one more year to ensure that we have this service provided. I'm not entirely pleased with the amount of money that we'll be having to spend on this. But this, I think, is a result of a sole vendor situation where more or less they're able to set the price. And we can accept that or we can reject it and go back out and try to find another contractor. The challenge here is that we are quickly running out of time to have this service provided despite starting several months ago with this process. A lot of factors at play here. The real significant increase in the amount of work that most contractors are performing, and other things as well. The fact that we don't have a lot of local contractors who have this kind of equipment, or people that might be willing per se to take the risk of leasing equipment or buying equipment. So what I am looking for from the board is hopefully a recognition that this is a single vendor price and not the actual cost of providing the service. That's first, I think, important. Second, I think it's important to recognize that we need to look at our contract and how that's put together and how we may try to structure that when we do go back out to bid again to try to do better and to get more vendors, more bidders, because that's the only way we're going to have a reliable price. The other piece of this is a request from the select board that we move ahead with this contract as proposed, recognizing that we were able to get a reduction without a lot of leverage. And then the last thing is that I'm asking the board to consider moving quickly toward reinitiating this process so that we can have somebody lined up for next winter about a year in advance. They shouldn't be, so I'll take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so those are the four things that I'm looking for, and certainly open to any questions on this because it has been a lengthy process.
So just to review, what we're talking about is we have put this out to bid now
Yes,
twice.
stop.
We have only gotten one.
Did the top window come down?
And I think there's a number of different ways that we can address this. So what I would like to do is basically, Eric, should we make a motion to just follow the recommendations as listed, or is there a motion necessary? What would you like us to do?
I think a motion's appropriate, and I'll let Ralph speak, but this recommendation does come from a discussion with, following that motion the board made last time around to have a small sub-working group.
Okay. Great, and that's what you guys did.
Yep.
Great. Ralph?
Okay, so I would move that we approve the snow and ice control contract for 21-22 with Cushing Construction. Let's see, in the amount of, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but $274,290. Is that correct?
No, that's not, so.
That would include the sand.
That
Yeah.
includes
You could do it that way.
inclusive, so,
Yeah.
so it would be inclusive total cost.
274,290.
Plus a variable cost for any sand
Oh, for-
beyond
oh,
1,000
and fuel.
or 2,000 yards.
And there was,
And a
I'll
fuel
second
escalator.
that, and then
Yeah.
we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Go
All
ahead,
right, it's
Carol.
been moved and seconded. Karen?
oh, sure. I was just to say the adjustment on the fuel, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that little caveat.
That's great.
Uh-huh.
When I talked with Eric about this earlier, I guess it was last week, we have 2,000 yards of sand there now. Is that correct?
That's an approximation, but I'd say between
Approximation.
1,500 and 2,000, and during an average winter, we use between 3,000 and 4,000. Last winter was very light, so we have a fair balance in our piggy bank.
So I asked him to be certain to put that we would still have the 2,000 yards left. I didn't want this contract to look like it was less than it is if we use the 2,000 yards of sand up and then there's nothing left next year. We need to compare apples to apples. So that's why we have that bottom line there that has actually 6,000 yards of sand in it, because we want to leave the 2,000 that's there. I think it's important going forward in trying to get a fair cost of service contract rather than a single contractor pricing.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
This is, just for the record, it's the outside limit of what our group thought was acceptable in terms of what should be borne by the taxpayers for snow and ice removal for this next year. And it will be important, as Eric mentioned, to begin our process to look for a subcontractor like yesterday, so that we don't find ourselves in this bind again. And on a parallel track to evaluate what it might cost if we were to look at some separation and town assumption of some of those responsibilities. So
I'm sorry,
Thank you,
but we
Ralph.
were supposed to.
Oh, no, I understand.
Yes, I also believe that if you pay a premium price, you should get a premium service. So it's been moved and seconded to accept this contract.
I have one other
Kathy?
question. With this obviously is over what we had budgeted, and I know that we have permission, you folks might not know this, but we have permission from the state to exceed the costs by whatever amount we need to maintain winter roads, because it's a public safety issue. That isn't how we want to spend our money, but we are permitted to do that. But where will we be drawing those extra funds from, Eric? Do we know?
Those will be coming from the roads operating reserve. So we have two reserves for roads. We have one for infrastructure and capital improvements. We also have one for operating expenses, which is what this is. And so those will be coming out of the operating reserve. Again, by minimizing some of the sand initially, we might be able to make it have a little bit less of an impact. But by the time we add 2,000 yards at the end of the season, that certainly will have a sizable impact on us.
Okay.
But that's where it would come from.
Thank you. All in favor? Very well. Excellent. Our next item is for the consideration of a lease of an electric vehicle for use by municipal staff and the installation of an electric vehicle charging station. This is item number 21-147. Eric?
So this is an FYI. I don't expect any action tonight, but we do have an opportunity if things continue the way they are to potentially do two things. One, to have a very affordable lease for the town of Readfield through the efficiency main rebates that would allow us to essentially offset our mileage costs, because we spend a couple $100, $300 a month, depending on the month, on mileage reimbursement for our code enforcement officer and administrative staff that might have to run special errands that don't use a town truck, or we could potentially have a vehicle that costs less to operate than our big, 1-ton town pickup, or dump truck. So there's potential here to have a net cost benefit to the town, and I haven't put all those numbers in here. That's one of the things I'll be doing, is doing a more complete financial analysis once I have a better cost estimate for the charging station. But it's my belief, given this very reasonable offer that we have, that we could save money as a town. The other item with this is a lot of people have been saying they want to see a gas station back in Readfield. Well, we could do that potentially someday, but that would be a lengthy and involved process and involves DEP. But we could put in an electric charging station, as many other towns have done, either at their town offices or in a public place. One option that I've already run by the fire chief is to put it near the fire station so we could have it available at Readfield Corner. So folks coming from out of state that might have EVs or even in town that have them could plug in for 15 minutes while they're going to the store to get milk. So I think it could be an economic development tool and a way to bring us forward as a community and support the things that so far the select board and residents seem to be very much in favor of, which is clean energy. Multiple goals here. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And with more information, I would appreciate that the select board support on this. But right now, I'm just looking for your nod to say, hey, spend some more time on this, get us some more information, and figure out how this could work.
Well, I just want to say when I was looking at the information about it, it seems like there is an incredible incentive for us anyway to be a part of this. So, and I think having a charging station in your town is always, it can be a draw for you. So, yeah. Anybody have anything to say? Yeah, Karen.
So you said a couple of numbers, something per month?
Yeah, so a couple $100s per month in mileage reimbursements for staff.
Okay. So would this, would we have another town vehicle that would not be used any longer?
No, this would be an additional vehicle so that town staff, primarily the code enforcement officer, doesn't have to use their personal vehicle and then be reimbursed for mileage as they take that vehicle down the camp roads and out to the fields and to the new construction sites and all of that.
Right.
I probably wouldn't be in favor of adding another vehicle at this point. I think it's a really tough time for people, and I would like to see us, if something's non-essential at this point, really kind of show some caution, I guess would be my point.
Would it be a cost? I mean, because if we're saving money on the reimbursement through using the town car, would there be some kind of trade-off?
That's the intent, yes. And
Right.
so we'd be trading a couple $100s in mileage fees for a couple $100s potentially, and that's where those more detailed numbers need to come in for a couple $100s.
So it's a wash,
in
no
these.
additional expense is the idea.
That's the idea, but I haven't put a ton of time into it because I didn't know how the board was going to feel about it. So,
But they're still going to be using the truck though.
no, they wouldn't be using their
They
personal
don't use a
vehicles.
town vehicle now.
Yes.
They use a personal vehicle.
Right, so when David Ledoux, the assessor, goes to a property, he always uses his own car. I think he throws the magnetic Town of Readfield sign on and takes his own card and then gets reimbursed for the mileage that he had. And I think in this instance, he would be able to use the town car to do all of that stuff, and we wouldn't have to worry about his reimbursement. Catherine?
Well, I'm opposed to electric vehicles to begin with, so I would not support this. Electric vehicles are not clean energy. 60% of your electric supply comes from coal manufacturing or coal mining. So clean is just a buzzword that people use. There's going to be, if people use the charging station, there's going to be a cost to that, to the town for the electricity. And if people use it a lot, that's going to be quite a cost. People don't come and use chargers for 15 minutes. If you do that with your batteries won't charge after about a year. So people put their charge.
You need to fully charge.
They need to fully charge. They need to almost discharge and then fully charge. Otherwise, and battery replacement is tens of thousands of dollars on electric vehicles. So you won't find that people will come to shop for 15 minutes and put it on the charger. There are associated risks with having a charging station. Any electric vehicle, but especially at a charging station, I mentioned this to Eric, that when the first Tesla station was put in up at Dick's Sporting Goods, somehow the Augusta Fire Department wasn't notified at the time that was going in. If you have an electric vehicle fire, the only thing you can do to put it out is to submerge it in water, which means it has to go into a large dumpster that's full of water. It has to burn itself out.
You can't use foam to put those on?
I don't believe so, but I don't know, and that would be something we should look at
Electric fire
before we're
with
going to
water
have one of
sounds
those. And
suspect.
I'm not sure we would want to put that next to our fire station. But certainly, looking at what other towns do, and approvals that have been granted would be the way to go with that. There's a very short range on mileage. I don't know how often we're planning on this vehicle being used, but usually they're somewhere between 70 and 100 miles before you have to recharge. So if we're just bopping around town, I guess that's okay. So I'm sure there are lots of people that are very pro this. That's just not my position. So. Yep.
So I'm opposite Catherine on this one.
That's fine.
The Kona EV actually has a 365 mile range.
Good.
And I've done a lot of research in the Kona EV, because that's the one you put in here, Eric, right? Is the Kona?
Yep.
The Kona EV. I mean, they're extremely affordable, and for many reasons because of the rebates out there. And the charging station's 15-minute charge now is a recommended EV3 charging time based on the standards on the batteries and all that stuff. So I think it'd be a great thing to do and get more numbers on. And
Well, it sounds like that's exactly what we need to do this evening, because I think more information would be good to have. I think anytime we can perhaps do something to save some money or at least have no impact and at least have something like that is good. I guess then what we want is to see more information. And so I know I certainly would, in terms, even Eric admits that some more time needs to be put in.
Absolutely.
So I would like to see that. Do we need to do any kind of thumbs up, thumbs down? Or are we all set for that? Eric, do you have an idea about what your...
Yeah, I want to take a critical eye at the cost and some of the operating, how it will operate, and whether or not a public station is a good idea, or maybe we should just look at a private station just to keep it running for town. So some good questions.
Good.
And some idea of the time demands for the people that will be using this vehicle.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
will there be overlapping competition for one car?
Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you very much. We move on to our next item, which is consider the select board meeting schedule through December 31st, 2021. In this, what we try to do is before the budget season really begins to go crazy, we try to do one meeting per month. And so what I would like for everyone to do, if you have your calendar out, you want to take a look. Usually what we'll try to do is ask Eric in terms of his information and try not to schedule these meetings on nights when the warrant, when the warrant comes out. So Eric, we are into July. We would probably want to do the 19th of July. That's a Monday. It is the third Monday of the month.
That could certainly work. Also, the 12th could work.
Either one
Typically,
of
the
those.
3rd is a good one. And I guess one thing I'll say is that in the summertime, the select board has typically held one meeting a month, July, August, September, and then moved to 2 meetings per month in October, November, December, in addition to what might come up in the budget process.
Sure.
But that's been a conscious choice by past boards, and it might be good to understand if that's the intent of this current board as well.
So we're on the table right now is Monday, July 19th.
That works for me.
Okay, that sounds good. So that'll be our July meeting. Again, Monday, July 19th. We transition into August. To follow this pattern, August 16th would be when our August meeting would be, again, the third Monday. It's also the Monday after Heritage Days. So we'd be able to do a little bit of a report out on that as well. Does anybody have any questions about Monday, August 16th?
Do you think you might need a select board meeting for housekeeping details for Heritage Day before the 16th?
I would defer. I don't foresee that.
Okay.
But I mean, we have a pretty good plan.
It's going to be less involved than it was the last time we had it.
Yeah. Yeah.
according to what we've talked about so far.
Yes, absolutely.
So kind of streamlined.
A little bit more.
Lots of activity still, but streamlined.
Yeah, yeah. Not as, yeah. Does that sound good? Everybody good?
I know we're on vacation that week and I don't know if we're here or away yet.
Okay.
I'll say I'm planning on being on vacation that week too, but you don't always need me. You guys can plan it
Well,
fine
then
on
We
your
don't
I
own.
would
always need to.
suggest, I would suggest
Oh,
we
we'll
do
stick
the
a,
9th
stick
or
a
the,
doll in the chair and stick pins in it.
That's right.
the 9th or the 23rd.
And I won't be here on the 9th. So August 23rd.
8:23?
8:23. Everybody all right with that?
Okay.
Very well.
I never go anywhere. Unless
Get
I'm
out
gonna-
more.
Unless I'm
All
taking a
right,
dirt
that'll take
nap
us
one
to
of these days.
September. And it looks like if we follow sort of the third Monday, it's the 20th. September the 20th. It's a Monday.
I won't be here, but I won't be here the week before either, so
Okay.
don't plan on me.
Then if there's no objections, let's do Monday, September 20th. Excellent. And we're getting into October. The 11th is Indigenous Peoples' Day. Should we begin doing 2 meetings in October, Eric?
We could certainly try to get back to that schedule. I mean, you could do
That's
the
early.
you could
Here's
do the
what I would
18th.
like to
Well,
suggest.
The 18th.
Let's do the 18th and then,
Put in an alternate date.
yeah. And then we'll do the 18th. And then what we'll do is we'll look at,
And an if needed.
2 in November, and you typically do 1 in December because of the holidays.
yes. So then if we were to do November 1st, that would be 2 weeks after our October 18th. So
Right.
we are November 1st,
And the 15th?
the 1st and the 15th. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
And that'll take us to our December meeting, which I think should be on the 6th of December. Because the 13th,
Can't do the 6th.
we can
wrong
do
with
the
the
13th.
That'd be better from
How about
a
the 24th?
budget perspective.
Hey, hush, you hush. The 13th
Is
is
better
what
for
we'll,
Eric.
yeah, it's better for
Yeah,
Eric.
because to get the
So we're looking
the financial reports, we need a little bit of
Absolutely.
time.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So that was November 1st, 15th.
And December 13th.
12,
December
13.
13th.
And I'm going to review them for you right now because I need that as well. So today we are meeting, and it's good to see everyone. Our next meeting will be Monday, July 19th. In August, we will see each other on August 23rd. In September, the 20th. October, the 18th. November 1st. Monday, November 15th, and Monday, December 13th is our last meeting of the year. There will be cookies.
And do we want to set January, the first meeting in January now?
You want to? Yes, absolutely.
Well, because then we can schedule the next 6 months sometime then.
Yeah. Then it looks like to me, if we go to the 17th, we'll compete with a holiday. We could do the 10th or the 24th.
We're thick into budget then, right? Eric?
Yeah, well, and that's one reason why I had to offer to stop at December because
Yes.
once you hit January, it's
Yeah.
budget season for 5 months. So,
Yeah, so let's wait. Is that okay with you, Kathy?
I mean, we could do the 10th and the 24th. I mean, that seems the most likely.
Yeah.
But it's not critical at this point either way.
But you'll have the budget calendar out in November?
I'm hoping to have it out in September.
Then we'll know.
Then we'll know. That sounds good. Does everybody feel good about that schedule? Excellent. Thank you so much. Last but not least is item 21-149. Consider a date, location, and format for the annual Select Board Planning Retreat. Now, this sounds like we're all going to go and like around the lake, but really we meet here. We have lunch and we discussed some of the goals that we have sort of looked at. In the past, what we have done is we've sort of had it be a workshop session. Bruce Burgoyne, who is a pretty good facilitator of these things, would always run it. We would be able to talk about items, bring in items that we feel like are important to us. We would be able to discuss some of the goals that the select board had been working on prior, and then talk about goals and things like that. Also included in that package is the review of various ordinances. What we try to do is go through and pick out ordinances and language that we may feel is dated. We go through and try to make sure that the ordinances still are relevant. And so there's always something that we do with that. In that regard, when have we normally had the retreat?
We do it in September.
August.
August is typically when
Okay.
you do it. Yeah.
Do we want to do it outside of a regular meeting?
Typically, yes.
Okay, so we would want to do, and it's during the day, what is it, 4 hours? we're here?
Usually a half day, but we've
Yeah.
done it from like 4 to 8 before, so that way people can maybe leave work a little bit early and have dinner and run it. But we've also done it in the church basement from 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Up at the Methodist Church.
So we're looking in August.
I prefer doing it here.
Yep, I prefer doing it here. It's just a good workspace. There's Wi-Fi, and we sometimes get lunch. I would be willing to, because we have a select board meeting on the 23rd, it's my instinct to have the retreat before that so that then we can report out about what we've done on the 23rd. So that would be the week of the 16th through the 20th, but I believe we've already stated you guys will be gone. Or you'll be gone, right? And I think it's very important for us all to be there. So what I'd like to do is I wondered if we could either go back and do something like the August, like 11, 12 before Heritage Days, or we're going to get pushed out to the 24th, 25th, 26th in there after our meeting.
You're talking July.
I'm talking August. August.
Oh, Heritage
Yep.
Days.
I mean, we could try the first week in August as an option.
That is entirely possible, but I will be out of town Wednesday through Monday, the 4th through the 9th.
How about the 2nd? Because we could do the Monday the 2nd. That would be.
We could do Monday the 2nd.
Now we have new people on the board who have jobs, so I think we need to discuss timing.
Absolutely.
So that
Absolutely.
it's something that works out. Is there a better day of the week for you folks that you can do
Yeah.
this? We typically have done daytime, but I think lately we've been doing like 4 to 7
Or
or
it might
4 to
be
8.
evenings for you guys because you've got other
Either
irons in
way,
the
it's
fire.
important that you're there and we want to make sure it works for you.
I could not do daytime this summer,
Okay.
So,
unless it was the weekend.
so what is not daytime?
Yeah, when does your nighttime start?
I can make nighttime start around 4,
Okay.
if I plan it, if I know.
If you
Okay.
knew.
That sounds
Okay.
good.
With this much notice, I have a schedule out through July, so
Okay.
I could shave off an hour at the end of the day.
Okay.
Easy.
So if we said 4 o'clock on Monday, August 2nd.
Oh, I have a dentist appointment,
Get out of here.
but I could probably swap with my husband.
Well,
So we could probably work that out.
all right. Select board retreat. As long as you don't get a filling, you can still talk to us when you come in. The select board retreat is tentatively scheduled right now for 4 p.m. on Monday, August 2nd.
And an estimated length of time, Eric, what have we been running?
3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, so I'd say 4 to 8.
It depends on our agenda. I mean,
Yeah.
what have has
And
anybody
there will
thought
be
about
snacks.
what it is we're going to be talking about?
Very important for me to have.
I think we need to have dinner if we're going from 4 to 8.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Last time we provided pizza.
This time I want
We've done potluck before where everybody brings something. That's always fun.
I like that.
COVID made
No,
it
it's
harder.
not.
Oh,
Yeah, COVID made it harder.
That's all over with.
I don't feel like getting any.
Sort of. Can we go ahead and, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Go
Go for it. Second there, new guy.
Second, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Very well, it has passed. This meeting's over. Thank you.
Right.
I don't know if I